Welcome back. We are here for the Between Dancing on Strings, episode 14. Where we left off was that Kemuel and Val, now Val 1 and Val 2, are at Society Obscura in their respective places. And we need to find out where Daymond has been. Marybelle had found a corpse. We're waiting to see if we have Marybelle's player tonight. And while we're doing that, let's find out where Daymond has been.
In an unusually bright place for such a normally dark man. The park. Taking in the sun, going for a walk, taking in a page from Kemuel's book of finding the beauty in the mundane. Perhaps a little bit of chivalry and volunteer work, helping a little old lady cross a busy street. But mostly wandering through London, letting the mind lead, taking us perhaps to Greenwich Park and the observatory there, in an attempt to find a scientific mind to discuss the Emerald Orchid with, specifically Millicent Bryant.
Okay. Did we list that move?
Yes, it is under records. You get one extra clue on the information move when you consult with her about scientific theories or astronomy.
Now, you kept the source of the anomaly for yourself, yeah?
Y- yes, I'm double checking personal quarters, but
Did you let her know that you have it?
yes. Ooh, no, I don't believe I let her know, but if it comes up in conversation, Daymond would certainly tell her.
Ah, well, I mean, she's in Dr. Fisher's office, now hers, and she greets you, thanking you for solving the strangeness that had happened. Um, she doesn't quite understand it, but she's in the midst of deciphering what notes that she can from Dr. Fisher's lab, of course. And she asks you, "So, in what way can I help you? I assume that you're here not as a social call, but as uh, one one inquiring mind to another."
Yes, the Hargrave House, the organization to which we all belong, has been tasked with a botanical problem. Orchids, grown almost of gem-like quality, seem to have a mind of their own, and they have a bad habit. And I will hold out my hand to show the little flecks of green that still run through some of the veins along my hand. A bad habit of causing infection, not not of the blood, the biologic sort, more so of roots growing beneath the skin, a plant taking seed. And I was wondering if I could pick your brain at how to cleanse them.
Oh, this
The,
is fascinating. This would be outside of my usual purview. Are you sure you didn't want to take this over to the naturalists over at the university, or to even the medical?
no, as much as their expertise in the material would be helpful, it is the openness of your mind to the immaterial, to, and I think Daymond at this point would pull out the star metal fragment and just sort of play with it in his hand, letting it be weird and do its thing, floating just a little bit above his hand, of things that science alone cannot explain. It is that openness of your mind that I seek.
Interesting. Huh. Well, you have given me quite the puzzle. This could almost be algorithmic in its hmm. And she will contemplate both the problem of your affliction as well as the star medal that you hold in your hand. Information move, please. With you're presenting a puzzle. So I want to say reason, even
Yeah,
though this is like this is very
no.
heavy duty sensitivity. I will not cause you disadvantage because you're using the star metal to offset it. So straight with reason.
And just to clarify, is that using the star medal as a personal quarters item, just so I can mark that?
Yeah.
Perfect. Ooh, that is going to be a 9.
So in this case, you get 2 clues. It's interesting that you bring this to me now. Like with anything, sometimes there is a bit of a marked coincidence in timing. We speak of time. As I have gotten reports recently, especially with the newspapers, detailing all of these articles about gardening and these reports of the popularity of this orchid that you speak of and this particular condition. And I've been getting reports from some of my even own scientific acquaintances that have been presenting some bizarre alien behaviors. They are quite, they have been quite voracious in their appetite. And if you press her about how voracious and what kind of appetite, she will look at you and say, some have gone to many of the academic dinners and eaten twice, thrice their fill, as if they cannot get enough, and they have not. Or they have been known to go into other offices and made noises with others of similar appetite. And she blinks at you. Quite unlike their usual detached selves.
Most peculiar.
Have you noticed yourself being different in some way, acting and behaving differently to your usual self?
I have noticed that my eye lingers more on green spaces, on things that one might describe as naturally beautiful, that I would not have given a second glance before this.
It
So,
is. It could.
so I, oh,
It's just amusing, and not not to downplay anything. that you may be feeling, but it is something that I've seen, and I am not of the medical profession, but again, scientific observation has just determined that, again, the progression seems to start with the change in behavior.
Most unfortunate. But that is what your analytical mind saw. Did your open mind see anything else amongst your colleagues?
It is something silly.
Nothing silly.
If I were to say this to anyone else, it would be. But to you, Mr. Gray, I think you would understand. Beware of those whose eyes change. Those familiar to me, their eyes change color. Their irises shift from their normal color to a sparkling emerald green and back again. If you see this change, you know they have fallen under the spell, or I shouldn't even say that word. They have fallen under the...
Spell is an appropriate word. Not in the magical sense. And as I say the magical sense, the star metal goes back in the pocket. But in the alluring sense, the way that one stares longingly at the night sky. You are under the spell of the moon, not because it has cast magic, but because it has captured. And I'll take one of Millicent's hands and place it against her own chest, your heart.
You are a strange one, Mr. Gray.
I am not always in control of my actions. It is the problem with allowing oneself to be open to any possibility. Any possibility becomes open to you as well.
And she, I think you're still holding on to her hand on top of her heart. And she looks as if she's trying to get closer to you, but then she suddenly draws back with a gasp, seeing something in your eyes. I think she should go.
Excellent idea. May you find yourself a safe passage through that sea of stars in which you travel. And I imagine that Daymond will spend the rest of the day laying in the grass of Greenwich Park, perhaps attempting to photosynthesize.
I think as you leave her
Mm.
office, and you miss this because you leave her office, but then she turns away, and then I think her hand comes away from her chest finally, and then she will kind of move like her collar, like as if she's trying to like kind of release something, and then she kind of murmurs under her breath, um, "May there be no strings on you, sir." Yeah, I owe you for the 9. I have to figure out a condition for you. Kemuel, you are at Society Obscura, and you are following the shadow. You are remembering that kiss that you had gotten from the twilight, that promise, I suppose, that you had gotten. What are you thinking of as you are moving upward, onward and upward, hearing that whisper through the society?
I think that they're thinking of uh, that desire that they felt uh, on the stage as the shadows of the occluded king receded from them. They want to follow this call to its point of origin.
Are you hearing the whispers and are you actually seeing where you're going? Or are you just kind of seeing the shadows in front of you and then just kind of following where the whispers are leading you?
Yeah, I think their eyes are just almost uh, just sort of not really paying attention. They're following that sound, and of course they can see around them, but they're not resting their eyes on anything. They're almost looking inward to hear that voice and follow where the shadows draw.
Okay. I think as you're making your way upstairs, you start hearing like, well, I mean, hmm, it's like the occluded king, but not quite. It's quite resonant. It's grumbling, but it's low and deep, and it's like it's around you like an embrace, but it's also above you, like it's calling you. And again, it's leading you. But then you hear underneath, like, more human sounds, like approaching voices coming towards you. And I think you're hearing, it's like, and I think, oh goodness, I think that no, I think we needed to set it up for a different kind of play. We need someone to play Paris, of course. Cyrus, come on. Portia, I think you have to be a little bit more reasonable. We will never find a Paris this late date. And what's this? And you, I think it's almost like you're rising out of water to finally hear and see what's in front of you. And you see a woman in a semi-sheer black caftan. Her hair is braided to look like a crown. She has a small, tight mouth. And then the man is in a form-fitting white bodysuit. It's tight in all the right places. And he's got silver cords wrapped around his arms, his legs, and his neck. All right. And they're both looking at you curiously. And please remind me again, Kemuel, if you remember, what are you wearing to the society?
Yeah, yeah. So they were wearing last we saw, they were wearing a like onyx black men's suit, but over the shoulders and across the chest and down the back was a wolf pelt that had been fashioned into a sort of cape
That's right.
with the wolf's head right at the nape of the neck, kind of hanging down.
And who are you? You are quite the specimen. She's kind of like a smallish little thing, like even in her caftan, and she's kind of looking you up and down and just admiring, like, your beauty. And and like, hurrying behind is Periwinkle, like kind of like waving the flyer. It's like, oh, it's them. It's them, ma'am. It's this Kemuel, this Kemuel Robel, the that that personage downstairs, waiting. He brought this to say that was willing to do a photo shoot. Ah, yes. What do you think, Cyrus? Do you think this? Do you think this personage will be wonderful for being Paris? And Cyrus is kind of bringing himself up to his full height in this bodysuit. And again, tight in all the right places, possibly curving in all the right places too. I'm not sure, dear. Maybe maybe they should be costumed a little bit more appropriately. I mean, I can see it, that wolf pelt is giving somewhat of the right vibe. But, perhaps we need to see a little bit more. Would you be willing to give us more?
What? We must beg your pardon. You've caught us while we were quite unaware. Uh, Apologies. Uh,
Apologies
we
are ours. I'm sorry, we are the Abernathies. I am Cyrus. This is my wife, Portia. We are the owners of this townhouse. We are the founders of the Society Obscura. Welcome.
Wonderful. You are just who we've been looking for. Did we hear mention of a role that needed filling?
Oh, yes, yes. The camera has told me. Portia's like, starting to do this fluttery thing with her hands and closes her eyes. The camera tells me things in my dreams and has said that we need to embody the scenes from the before the fall of Troy, and we must have a Paris and a Helen. But we need a Paris, and I can see. I did not see you clearly until just now, that you would be perfect. But we need to see more, as my husband has said. Would you be willing?
We would be most willing. We would be most happy to participate in these portrayals. We are quite familiar with the city of Troy.
Oh,
But you must tell us about this camera as well.
ah,
It
yes.
speaks to you.
Oh, that speaks to, well, all of us. Gives us a purpose, a vision. Camera sees us. It reveals us. Many people don't like what they see in the image because they know it is the truth. One cannot hide from the lens, no matter how hard one tries. But come, we shall see, and we hope that you will enjoy your experience. Come, Cyrus, let us show our new subject how beautiful they can be. And if you will allow them, they will each reach out a hand for one of yours and bring you like upstairs, further up to the penthouse part of the townhouse, to bring you up to the rafters or whatever the heck they call it. And yeah, for your big photo shoot. Oh boy.
Yeah, they'll take their hands and remark how glorious it would be to have a portrait made of our true self. How glorious indeed. Lead the way, friends. Cyrus, Portia.
As Cyrus and Portia lead you up, I think Cyrus will muse. I like to imagine a photograph. It's like a little pocket dimension, a little tiny world parallel to our own. You do believe in a parallel world, don't you? It's a parallel thread in time, something parallel to this world, like the primordial past, the time before we were there, before there was light. It's still with us. It floats alongside. Someday, it may even call out to us. And that someday may even be now.
Your words, Cyrus, have much wisdom. We're quite certain there are places parallel to here.
And he just gives you a dazzling smile, just as white as his bodysuit, as they bring you upstairs. Cutting over back to Daymond. Daymond, tell me, after you get as much photosynthesis as you will, what do you do?
It feels so rare for Daymond to just have a day to himself. He isn't consulting with the others at Hargrave House. Isn't really getting into any trouble. I feel it would be most appropriate to head then back to Hargrave House and have a conversation with a piece of decor that will catch his eye upon entering that front hall. There is a skull placed.
Oh, you have to wrestle the door
Whoa.
open because the door
Oh,
is been mangled
oh,
a little
good.
bit.
Oh, it's knowing his vitality. He's not actually going in through the front door.
Hmm.
He's gonna spend some time pulling, and it's just not gonna open. He'll
Sure.
go around disgracingly through the back door
Hmm.
and then make his way to the front door to see what's gotten it stuck. And I think getting distracted in the front hall at the new decoration sits in the front hall, picking up the skull. Hello there. You're not one of mine, are you? Marybelle would have no use for a skull. Val, Kemuel, or Dr. Weiss. Dr. Weiss wouldn't have a skull without flesh on it. Well, or Valentine. Well, or Valentine. Well, only one real way to find out. I go into the kitchen with the skull, place it at one of the seats on the table, boil some water, taking my time with the leaves, perhaps even reading some of them, taking out 2 teacups, one in front of myself and one in front of the skull. I would put a lump of sugar in my teacup, and the agonizing thread from my arm pulled into the other. And as I stir that thread into the teacup, wincing and smiling, I would like to attempt to communicate with something that I do not share a language with.
Hmm.
The rites of salt and smoke. Simply to ask who the skull belongs to. Assuming, of course, that it will be Kemuel or Valentine. Not necessarily more information, but we'll find out if that gets shared. 13. So it's a roll with sensitivity. On a
Mm-hmm.
10 plus, which a 13 is, magic works without further cost. Choose the effect. And I would like to communicate with something that I do not share a language with.
Mm-hmm.
Who are you with?
That is your question.
How did I phrase it before asking this? Who do you belong to?
Are you asking the skull? Or are you asking the
The
person
skull.
who the skull was?
Ooh. Daymond wouldn't know how old this skull is, so it could be hundreds of years old. It could be dozens. It probably doesn't cross his mind that it's days old. So I think it would be the skull. It would be boring to find out that this was the skull of a peasant. It's more interesting to know who brought the skull in here. So the skull.
The skull will chitter, like kind of like shake on the table, and kind of maneuver itself so this way it's kind of like facing the cup as if it's going to drink from it, but almost like forcing you to kind of look into the teacup. And when you look into the teacup, it'll show you Kemuel's face.
Kemuel's skull. Interesting. And how did Kemuel come to find you? You are not a particularly ornate or beautiful skull. Was it who you were in life that drew Kemuel to you?
The skull chitters some more, and then will upend the glass. I mean, upend the cup. So the tea spills, but it still creates some kind of cloudy reflection onto the table. And you're literally watching as if you are seeing through the skull's eyes, through the person's eyes, like these hands grabbing Kemuel's lapel and like, desperately like as if you can't hear anything but screaming at him, like, like you like just being desperate and like clutching at him, and then Kemuel smacking this person across the face until they know no more. And then, you know, nothing until awoken again. And then this person, like you're literally watching an arm reaching out for Kemuel. It's emaciated, it's gaunt, it's like, like skeletal. And then you're watching the skin slough off as this smoky essence that you remember seeing from before, like come to almost settle on this body that you can't see. Only this arm that's starting to be eaten away by this smoky essence. And the person that is Kemuel talking, but you can't quite make out what Kemuel is saying to this person as this person is being disintegrated in the reflection.
That cad. He can do magic. Or, can he? What is Kemuel capable of? Because all good things happen in threes, my dear friend, I suppose I should ask you one final question. I've been selfish of your time. So what would you like? Would you like your skull buried? A gravesite? Would you like to watch the comings and goings from the parlor? Would you like to sit with the other skulls in our collection? What is it that you want?
That's a very good question. Hmm. That is such a good question. I don't know. I don't know what I know what this
No.
person is. I just don't know what they would want.
Think on that. And Daymond would pat the skull. For now, I will put you back in the foyer where I found you. And I'll place a little silver bell next to it. No, that's not how a skull would be able to ring it. I place a small silver servant's bell in the jaw of the skull like a rose being caught by a dancer. Ring the bell when you have an answer. And to ensure that the spell lasts long enough for the skull to make up its mind, having rolled up a sleeve to clean up the spilled tea on the table, I will pull one more thread out and place it in the crack of the skull, the top of the skull, where the two plates fused when this skull was growing up, gingerly laying it about so that the silver thread doesn't catch any light, but sits there, keeping the skull in thought.
Oh God, there's two things I want to do, but I don't know which one to do. But okay. Oh, and I need to give you a condition for the 9. All right, your condition is silver threads, green eyes.
Delightful.
Oh, and what the hell? I'll combine both things. The silver bell rings, as you're making your way out. And the skull will open up its, well, I mean, like, obviously it rang the bell, but it will, like, drop the bell from its mouth, and then, like, it doesn't have any lips or anything like this, but somehow it manages to issue some kind of sound from it, I guess because of the strength of your thread. And what it says is, mask invite.
Mask invite.
And then it will kind of like do a like shake and like turn. Like, you know how it kind of like, you kind of like rock back and forth until you shift direction, and it will point at a piece of delicate stationery that's been tossed off to another table in the kitchen. And it's the invitation to the autumn masquerade that was originally pinned to the door in the morning when the others came home.
This may be a faulting of myself, the player, not picking up what the skull is putting down. But does the skull wish to be worn as a mask to the masquerade or attend the masquerade?
Do you ask that out loud?
Yes, I feel that Daymond would probably. He's alone in the house. There's Hattie, there's a few others, but he feels he's the only. He thinks out loud.
Attend.
Absolutely. You shall come with.
Who are you talking to, Mr. Gray? Hattie comes into the kitchen.
Ah, Hattie. Talking both to myself and trying to work through a puzzle I'd been given. And I've often found that it helps to have something spiritual to bounce the ideas off of, and there's this skull that Kemuel lovingly placed in the foyer, and it has a face, and I figured if it cannot respond in the literal sense, perhaps in the metaphorical sense.
Kemuel
So
does seem to love strange things like these, doesn't he? Don't they?
they love beautiful things, and Miss Hemsworth, I believe that includes you.
Behind her veil, she seems very hesitant, but she starts to nod. I hope you are right, Mr. Gray.
Please do not take my words with any amount of subtext or subterfuge. I do not see you as anything other than a valued companion of this house. But, sorry, I'm laughing at chat. But it is good to converse, to have moments with those that they live with.
I have feared speaking to any of you, thinking that perhaps I am out of turn, for it is Kemuel who has brought me here, and I should only be out with them.
You are your own person. Kemuel is not the one that holds your strings. You are allowed to do as you please. You may speak to whom you wish, though I do recommend for your safety that you stay out of the door that says, "Do not disturb."
I've heard strange sounds coming from in there.
It belongs to one of our colleagues, a workroom of sorts. I'm not entirely sure what goes on in there, only that plates of food are left out in front of it in the evening and appear empty come morning.
I'm given to understand Dr. Weiss is working quite hard on her projects.
Yes, much as I'm sure you had your chemical experiments, as Kemuel has their sensual lounging, as Valentine has books of the future. Each of us have our own, to call it a day job is unextraordinary. have our own bad habits.
Well, I feel that I am not pulling my own weight. I am merely a companion, I suppose. I feel.
Nonsense. You are pulling your weight. If Kemuel tells it right, you saved them from a poisonous gas. Without you, where would Kemuel be? Bones in the basement. You are as much a valued member of this flock as any of them.
And yet you seem to set your own self apart, Mr. Gray. I am a valued part of the flock as any of them. What of you?
I appear to have attracted the eye of a puppet master, much as you feel drawn to Kemuel. I, too, am drawn to something, only where yours appears to be benevolent. Mine has bloodied hands at the end of my strings, and I think Daymond will show both arms, given that he's not wearing his traditional coat, just being around the house, doing a little bit of housework, as it were, and show off the silver strings.
Strange burdens you all bear. If I can be of any help in any way, please let me know.
There is one thing I can think of. When you are alone with Kemuel, in their various states of undress, would you look at their hands, their arms, perhaps, and just let me know if they're thin, if Kemuel's, and Daymond will pause before lying, eating enough. I am concerned that Kemuel may not have the best habits when it comes to that. And as the lie ends, the thought spins through the wheels. Those thin arms had to have belonged to someone.
But Kemuel's perfect. Perfect
Kemuel,
in every way.
Kemuel is perfect in almost every way. Kemuel still has flesh and blood, and that must be tended to like a garden pot, must be tended to. And subconsciously, Daymond will go to the front hall closet and pull out a clod of dirt pot and just begin tending to it.
Mr. Gray.
The soil must be tenderized and
Mr.
watered. The seed planted deep, and he'll stick his thumb in and just leave the thumb down in the pot.
Mr. Gray, what are you
Just
doing? Are you all right?
perhaps I need to lie down. These days off are apparently not good to let the mind wander.
And I
Is
think
it?
as you say that, I think this is where, and you're turned away from Hattie, I think the camera will see your eyes start to glow green. While Kemuel is talking with the Abernathies on the landing by the staircase and all this kind of stuff, I think in your room in the astral plane room where you are hiding underneath the silvery, strange fabric, Val 2, I think. Like you overhear this because you heard the murmuring, which is why you hid in the first place. But I think you can overhear everything, and you're hearing them talk to Kemuel about how they need to see more, and they're going to be bringing Kemuel up to the um, uppermost floor for the photo shoot, as well as to get a better look at, you know, what Kemuel has to offer. So, does Val 2 come out of hiding? That's my first question.
I don't think in order to follow Kemuel, I think Val is still, well, Val found the room that we suspected was the one used for the photograph of the person whose name I forget.
Penelope.
Penelope, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think Val is still going to try and avoid Kemuel and not avoid Kemuel, but avoid that whole group.
Okay.
Oh no, actually, you know what?
You can do whatever
No,
you
I'm
want.
gonna.
I mean,
No, I want to investigate some of the other rooms.
okay.
I want to see what else is. While Kemuel has them distracted,
Very much so.
and
Okay.
Val is ostensibly waiting downstairs. I would like
Yes.
to see what else I can discover.
Yep. Above is the Olympus room, and you're obviously in the astral plane room.
Hmm.
Uh,
And the
below,
Olympus room is presumably where Kemuel is going if he's playing.
correct, correct.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of other rooms like on this floor, and then of course the jungle room, American West room, and such are downstairs.
I think I'd like to head higher and see what's, the most interesting, the most secretive things are likely the furthest from the front door, right? So let's try and head all the way up.
So once they start passing, and then you hear their voices get more distant and further up, I think if you Val 2 start to come out of hiding, um, you go down the hallway, and I think you're gonna come to a room that has like a plaque on top of it that says primordial.
That's intriguing. I will listen at the door, and if I don't hear any activity in there, I'll crack the door open and slip inside.
You don't hear anything.
Okay, and then I'll take a look.
This place is dark. There's no window at all in this room. When you slip inside, the only light is coming from the hallway, from the hallway window. And even that's kind of dim. It's almost as if the room is swallowing up and absorbing any light that is coming inside it. So unless you have some sort of light source, like
Mm.
a match or something like that, then you can't see.
The one thing I do have is a piece of glowing yellow rock found near Three Mills Island.
Okay. I mean, I'm not going to make you use it or anything like that
Mm.
for this, but I mean, like, if you want to use it in terms of fictional positioning, I can totally
Yeah,
let you. Yeah.
yeah, just to get light.
Yeah. So, in the dim glow of this yellow light, of this yellow rock, um, you just get the impression of it's not floor, it's more like dirt, like broken up rock somehow. And it has like a smell of an expanse. It's hard to explain. It's like it's not even like a the outdoors. It's more like just an expansion of some sort. And again, you don't see very, very much in front of you. You just get this impression of pulverized rock underneath you, darkness, to all sides, and you know, no real sightlines of anything, um, within this room. No windows or any light coming from anywhere.
I think trying to bear in mind which way the door was, I'd like to venture a little further inside and see if I can find a wall or anything that breaks the monotony of the room.
Sure. So when you're moving further away from the wall, do you let the door go closed?
Yeah, closed the door after behind me when I came in.
I think in this case it's going to be a day move. What do you think will go wrong if you fail or lose your nerve?
I think the thing that Val is worried about is that maybe they won't be able to find their way back to the door. Like if there's something weird going on in this room, which seems very possible.
Right. Yeah. All right. So go ahead and roll.
Can I mark that piece of glowing rock to give myself advantage? Or cancel
Yes.
out disadvantage
No,
if
go
you're
ahead
going to
and
impose on it?
yeah, hold on. Let me check your conditions. Come on. Witness to the retreating shadows. Yeah, that particular condition, as much of as it sounds like, it's in play, it's really not.
Okay.
And so I'm not going to give you any hardship about that, but I mean, this is definitely sensitivity in this room. So,
See, well, I'm going to mark that piece of rock.
yep. So
That
advantage.
is a 9.
Tell me how you succeed in getting grounded in this place, like finding somehow finding a way to make this make sense to you, and realizing that it is still a room in a place and it is not outside of your realm of understanding.
Well, I think given that I've been inside a couple of other rooms at this point, I have a sense for the dimensions of the building, as it were. So I kind of have an idea of how many paces roughly it should be to a wall.
Okay.
And yes, so I think I would be setting off with that expectation in mind, that unless there's something strange going on, I should hit a wall by like X number of paces at most. So, and just trying to walk in an absolutely straight line so that I can retrace my steps in order to find the door again.
Okay. I think, though, that because of what you're doing to make sure that you're finding your footing in this room, you're making enough noise that you're gaining attention, and it's going to be Periwinkle that finds you, for one. And when he discovers you and escorts you out, I think he's going to discover that there's two of you.
That makes sense. Or I could use a mask to bump this up to a full success.
You could. And not get interrupted.
Yeah, I think I'd like to do that. I don't want to have to explain to Periwinkle what is going on with there being two Vals.
Exactly. Okay. So,
Dressed identically and looking even more identical than identical twins would look.
yep. It's my brother. No, it isn't. Or yeah, whatever.
And if Periwinkle goes through their pockets, he'll find exactly the same things in.
Oops.
So
We
yeah,
just
it
really
would
like
be
the same things.
right. It would be pretty hard to explain.
Mask of which mask are you using?
I think I'm going to do Darkened Threshold,
Ooh.
unless we have a threat mask in use. But no, let's save the threat mask for if we need it for a question.
Well, we don't have anything for Whately. So, right there that you're
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. So Darkened Threshold. What is your Darkened Threshold?
1542, you are responsible for the enactment under Henry VIII of the first act against witchcraft in England. How are you responsible? Narrate a memorable execution that you experienced, witnessed, or oversaw. Take a keepsake, ask another hunter what it is, and then add it to your personal quarters.
You can do that now or wait until the end of the session.
Let me see. I think I have it basically ready. If you want me to do it now, I can do it now.
Yeah, if you want. Yep.
Okay. We see a dim room lit only by candles. And a man with a thatch of thick blonde hair above soft dark eyes lies on the bed. And his voice comes out. What are you... What dost thou, Sybil? Come back to bed. And we see a woman turned away from us. She is naked, and she touches a lighted taper to something in front of her, then bows her head and sighs. I am sorry, Valentine. Would that it could be otherwise. The woman turns, and we see that she holds a ghastly severed hand. At the tip of each finger, a flame burns. The look of shock is frozen on Val's face, and we see his body tense, frozen in place. Sybil walks across to him and bends down to kiss him. My sweet fool, goodbye. We cut to Valentine, now dressed in a doublet with a ruff. A sword hangs at his hip. Sybil stands before him, her hands bound. She looks ragged, her hair cropped short, bruises and cuts evident all over her. She speaks to Valentine. Thou wearest still my favourite, thy breast, Sir Valentine. Wilt thou not speak for me now? Val grimaces. Think'st thou I would thee spare, even if 'twere in my power? Sybil gives a half smile. Dost thou after all love me not, sir? Thou woundest me in the very heart. She gives a small grim smile at one side of her mouth. Thou fliest so fleet to mine bed, yet not so to mine aid. Thou hast made use of me. As you did of me, sir. The two become silent as a voice rings out. Sybil Russell, thou art accused that on the 24th day of August in the year 1542 that thou didst commit treason. And we kind of fade out of that scene. We cut to a public square. It is a grey, overcast day with intermittent rain, leaving wet marks on the ground. As the flames in front of us rise, they burn through the ropes binding Sybil's arms to the stake. It is impossible to tell if the sound coming from her mouth is a scream or a laugh. With her now freed hand, she starts to pull at her chest and neck. Something like silvery threads trail from her fingers. A shout comes out to Val's right. He almost turns, but forces himself to keep his eyes locked on Sybil as the soldier standing next to him starts to scream. The man's head tips back and a column of flame emerges from his mouth. He is burning from the inside. All around Val, the other soldiers, the priest, and the yeoman are suffering the same fate. Some fall to the ground in a vain attempt to quench the flames consuming them. Val keeps his eyes locked on Sybil throughout, a look of grim determination on his face. The smell and the screaming is overwhelming. Only Val himself is spared, when the men around him are reduced to a smouldering husk, belching a thick black smoke into the sky. His eyes are still locked on the pyre. Sybil is still now an angular, blackened silhouette, entirely consumed by the flames.
That's your keepsake. And who are you asking it of?
I'm going to ask Daymond for the keepsake. Given there was a nod at some connection with his power in there.
To hearken back to a moment from the actual show, Penny Dreadful, and their use of witches. A cross attached to a long iron rod, a brand used to burn witches.
Very nice.
Before I move on to Marybelle, that you got your bearings. What do you want to do here, Val? In this room that may or may not be a room.
Mm. Yeah, I think I'm really just fishing around for anything that may hint at how the camera operates or what is actually going on during these photography sessions in these, extremely lavishly appointed rooms.
Information move, please, with sensitivity.
Sensitivity. That is 8.
How far back in the past have you gone? How far back does Val move or has moved?
I think, without being too exact, I don't think they have gone further back than the time of their own birth, which, whether that's some kind of limitation on what they're able to do, I imagine it is, and that would have been, I'm imagining, somewhere in the 1300s. So no further back than that.
Okay. The reason I say this is, and you're going to have to figure out what you think it is, uh, because I think in the strange room, like you're trying to get a handle on where you think the camera might be when they do this kind of thing, where they might position people and all that. And I think you get the sense of positioning and I think you see a vision as you're making maybe you're kind of like trying to picture this in your head even, but you're starting to see like a vision of like even Periwinkle here because he's the most associated with this at the moment. Like you're starting to see Periwinkle and then you see Periwinkle like maybe posing for the camera, but he's speaking to you, but not as you, but as if he's speaking to the camera operator, like to the photographer, but he's speaking in a language that is dead. Like there's no way he would know this language.
Is it one that I understand?
It's the one that you understand, but it's one that that is dead.
It would be Val's first language in that case, then.
Yeah. I mean, first the shock of like, why are you speaking to me in that? And then two, it's like, why, that like Periwinkle's not really here. You're just seeing this, and it's kind of like an overlay, but you're hearing your old language spoken by this person that you are seeing of this place.
Mm. Is that a clue?
That is the clue.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
Yep. And I think for that 8. Ah, okay. And so I think this is where you'll hear voices starting to approach this room, and you'll hear a voice familiar to you approaching this room. Actually, 2 voices familiar to you approaching this room. One is Mari, and the other is someone that you shouldn't know yet, but you do because of your time hopping. It's the woman that you had asked to live with you. And you can hear them talking and saying, yes, I mean, we could always rent something just like this. Maybe not quite so large, but this society is one of the different places that we can meet different people, get connections, and then we can branch off from here. But at least we'll get an idea of where we can live. And they are approaching the door quickly. Marybelle, what are you doing now that you've discovered the Laurel Bentley's corpse? Oh, God.
I think I think the thing I need to do then is go and I feel like I would need to notify somebody, but I think the first thing I should do is check to see if the children are in the house. Because if they are, I don't want them to stumble upon the body. That just seems, well, bad for evidence,
Mhm.
for one thing.
Right. You, again, when you go back out, to the house, like through the house, I don't think you're going to sense anybody human here. Like, it's literally quiet. It is as if anyone living has left the premises.
All right, that's good. And children tend to make noise, so if the children were here, they'd probably be being noisy. In that case, I would like to take a look around and see if, because I know she was supposed to have an orchid. I would like to take a look around and see if it's in here.
Yep.
So that I can, because I told the children to destroy it,
Yes.
but whether or not they listened, I don't know.
Children,
Children.
Yeah, go for it. Info. Hold on, let me look at not your moves, your conditions. Smell of burnt spores, boy.
I'm doing great. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think like it's smell of burnt spores. Well, it might be disadvantage if something here recognizes that you might be a danger to them.
Okay, that's fair. I'll just do the disadvantage. I can do this.
Yeah.
So this is likely to be with reason,
Yeah, because you're trying to search.
and it's 0 today, so this is great. Oh, I only dice. Let me grab. All right. Oh, that's not bad. That's a 7.
Nice. All right.
I'm looking for the orchid.
The orchid, yes.
Yeah.
So, I think it's going to be very easy to see what you find. You don't find the orchid. What you do find is in various places around, like where you would expect people to hide, like things, like plants or hide things. You find, and hold on, let me check safety. Hold on. Okay. So if I say, if I just say it straight out, like, and I don't describe it with any with any graphic detail? Is it okay if I give the clue right as straight as it is, because it does affect pets and stray animals? Harm to because I see harm to pet and domestic
Oh
animals
yeah, we
listed as a
have a
veil.
veil on harm to pet and domestic animals. If anyone has an issue with that, pop it in chat maybe, or send Mads a message. If not,
Just tell me if it's okay or if
and we can always X card it if it is
yeah.
too much.
Okay.
So I
Well,
think
basically, I'm just gonna say it straight. It's basically where you find like where people like where you're looking where things could be hidden. It's basically where like these stray animals are bearing strange seedlings rooted in their feathers and fur. So instead of the
are
orchid,
these
you're
there?
finding.
Are they alive?
I mean, they're barely alive. They're
Okay. Yeah.
they've been stored away, but these seedlings are like you can see them.
Yeah.
They're glowing green, like as if these jewels, the jeweled seedlings from the orchid itself, has been embedded in them.
And is that a clue?
Yeah, that is a clue. And I think some of the seedlings will actually start to glow as you get closer to them. Like if you decide to try to pull like any of the animals out to get a closer look, I think the seedlings themselves will start to glow as if they sense movement and motion. And I think they will swivel to look at you as if they are eyes.
Yee. Yeah, I'm definitely just gonna leave them be. I'm pretty sure somebody, I think it was probably Kemuel, told me to not touch nasty, dirty things because it'll make me nasty and dirty. Um, and then I remember what happened with the bath, and having to clean up all that stuff. And I know that I just did all of my re-oilings, and I don't want to have to do that again. So I'm just gonna not touch it.
How does the swiveling eyeball seedlings like make Marybelle feel?
I think she doesn't fully comprehend that it's not completely normal. Like, it's strange, yes, because they've never seen anything like this before, but it's not outside of the realm of possibilities because all of their dealings with these flowers have been so strange.
Mhm.
So I think instead of being really surprised, they're probably more curious. Can these plants see? Are they able to, I don't know. I think because every now and then when Marybelle is otherwise not engaged, she will start to think about how her whole body works. How do her eyes see? They're not eyes, they're just pieces of glass. How do they see the way they do? Like how Damon Gray's eyes work, or Val's eyes work, or Kemuel's eyes work. How is this possible? And I think this plant with eyes that aren't eyes is of interest to her.
I think yeah, I think as you move away from all of these things and um the jewels swivel to look at you, I think they're the different, whether it's a bird, whether it's an animal or whatever, somehow a voice emanates from them. It sounds the same even though it's through avian slash, you know, um, like animal vocals. They all say the same thing. We see you.
Very well. I can see you as well. I'm Marybelle. Who are you?
There's no further answer. But I think the glow, like if you do see any of the jewels, still out in the open, it's like they're looking like right at you, and then the glow intensifies a little bit more.
Either you can speak and only say that one thing, or you're choosing to ignore me. Which is it?
I think they repeat themselves. We see you.
Perhaps you're not as complex a being as I thought. Nonetheless, it is something interesting to be brought back to my colleagues. Perhaps not by hand. And yeah, I think I'm actually going to just leave the house. And I'm going to I plan on heading back to Hargrave House. But I feel like along the way, I'm assuming it's along the way, I would like to stop in at the Blue Feather Society.
Blue Feather Society. It's basically a salon. Private salon, yep. It's essentially in Abigail Walker's home, her private salon that she holds. She was a friend of Sir Richard's, who was, of course, the acquaintance of Hargrave House. Yeah, trusted friend. Yep. So anyway, yeah. And she will receive you. Tightly bound hair, stiff posture, severe expression over tiny spectacles, and she's smoking her Blackbriar calabash pipe.
Oh, it's you, one of the Hargrave House people, isn't it? You are Marybelle, yes?
Good day. And you must be Miss Walker.
Yes, I am the chair of the Blue Feather Society.
Thank you for having me in. And I just sort of push past her and sit down.
What can I help you with, dear?
Well, I have two questions. You and the Blue Feather Society, you study, you think about, philosophically think about various strange subjects. Is that true?
Esoteric, yes. I frequently exchanged letters with Sir Richard, when he was alive, of course. Debating his more outlandish theories. Yes.
Have you ever heard of objects that wouldn't normally have any sort of movement or abilities suddenly coming to life?
Movement or abilities coming to life.
Yes.
Cursed
Like
items?
a doll, for example, like myself.
Oh, possession? Are you possessed? Has the spirit taken you?
I do not believe so.
Usually they are more demonic, but you do not seem like you are full of any kind of fire or brimstone, so we can rule that out safely, I believe.
So,
are you debating
the
your
answer
own
is
existence?
No. I am curious as to how my existence works and how it could be expanded upon.
Expanded upon how? We all worry or think about our existence. Some worry about our existence in terms of a purpose. Why are we here? What should we be doing? And some worry about just existing. Making sure that we can exist from day to day. What is your specific, expansive worry about existing?
I have no worries about existing. I exist now. I presume I will exist in the future. what I am interested is changing the nature of my existence, if possible.
From the way you are now to what exactly?
I haven't really quite thought about it. To something else. Something more human, maybe? Or something less?
The human condition is quite varied. You would have to decide from many different permutations.
Yes, luckily I have very good examples in Hargrave House.
So you would decide to emulate one of your colleagues.
Perhaps. Or perhaps I would decide to go completely the opposite. Right now, I'm just interested in whether or not I could.
Take the example of one of your colleagues. What would be the opposite that you would consider? And is that the most human that you would want to be?
I could take my colleague Val, for example, who has taken vows of honesty and tries to make decisions based on the good of all. Perhaps I could do similar, or perhaps I could do the opposite and make all of my decisions for the good of only myself. In that case, I could be more like my colleague Kemuel, whose first priority is Kemuel. And should it not be? But I think I am more interested in harnessing my own powers, harnessing what I can do already and making more of it, like Daymond Grey does.
I think the advancement of the human condition is always being the best that we can be. So, if you would like to truly be all that you are, be the best that you are, be the best that you can be. Only then can you truly be your best human self. Does that help answer your question?
It provides my question more context, which I appreciate. Thank you for your insight on that matter. My second question has to do with this little matter of Sir Richard. Now, this delicate silver thread that we have heard, this strange thread, I have seen similar strange silver threads before, but this situation sounds different than the one I'm more familiar with. Can you tell me more about it?
Some of the theories that Sir Richard has talked about is with this, the other crowd that he purports to have known or have seen has infiltrated London, the creatures of the Fey realm. Yes, we've humored him quite so much. But silver thread is associated with the webs that some could weave, and it has a tensile strength of just being an otherworldly kind of material. Delicate and beautiful, but yet stronger than armor. Just captivating. Is that what you speak of?
Yes, I am interested in it as well. Why would Sir Richard be the target? I heard tell that he was supposed to be giving some sort of speech or presentation here at your society.
Yes, absolutely. We don't know. It's was supposed to be presenting a summary of his life's work. We were...
And do you have any notes or documentation that he had regarding his work that he was going to present here? I assume that he must have pitched it somehow.
He had, but then he took them all away, stating that no, he had to finish and he had to revise because he had gotten new information, supposedly by his paramour, that Hazel Beaumont character.
Ah, yes. I have met her. She is a strange woman, but very good taste in gowns.
If he'd only had a thimbleful of good judgment, he would still be with us. We did love him for all those outrageous stories.
You believe his stories to be outrageous?
Oh, yes, his theories are all nonsense. Of course.
In what way?
Again, the other crowd. I mean, we would talk about curious things, esoteric subjects, discuss the things that would not be discussed in formal institutions, of course. Things that were verging on folklore. He was an expert, of course, but he would have these stories, verging on stories. I mean...
And those stories do not tell the truth.
That does put a little bit of a conflict, because in stories there is a slight crumb of truth in the center of every one. But with Sir Richard, he took himself quite seriously, and that's where we got to worry about him in his last days. The news of his death was quite sudden.
Would you please give me Sir Richard's address?
Absolutely. I can only hope that someone finds out how or why.
Yes, well, Hargrave House is on it. I'm sure we will find something. Thank you for your assistance. Goodbye.
I mean, she hurriedly writes out the script of like where his flat is located, and then she'll give it to you.
Yeah, if I have time, I'll pop by Richard's flat, but I imagine that'll have to be saved for the night.
Yeah.
Nighttime.
That seems like a night phase thing to do.
Oh, yes, that's a very much a night phase thing to do. Okay. So I think with all of that, hold on. So let's see. Kemuel is being brought up to the upstairs. Oh boy. Val, too, is going to be discovered by Mari and the mystery woman, whose name I've completely forgotten at the moment. And Daymond, the skull is asking to be brought to a masquerade. Or Hattie's worried about you. Let's like turn a page over to night phase. Let's start like thinking about like where things are. You have, what are we looking at now? We're looking at 8 clues. 9 clues? 9 clues, I can see. Does anybody have any working theories for Emerald Orchid? You have a 4, a 6, and an 8 that you can play with. So, conceivably, you can answer a question, one of those questions, and see about taking care of it, or I don't know.
Do we have a preference on which we'd like to solve? Seeing as we do have enough clues for
Any of
the
them.
secret properties.
Yeah, it felt like earlier you were inclining towards the middle one, the how can it be cured? But I'm not sure if that was just me misreading the...
No, that was what Daymond was pushing for.
Right.
However, I don't think it would be inappropriate to say that Daymond would always like to harness more supernatural powers. So I'm good with any of them.
I think Val would incline to not harness the powers, but Then again, Val has not been very involved in the investigation of this particular mystery, so.
Mark, do you have a preference?
Uh, me as a player would be fine with any of the options. I think Kemuel as a character would be weighing towards destroying the orchid, since they now see it as a rival and an enemy.
Yeah.
That might
That could be
make
hilarious
an
fun.
Oh, that could be
alliance of convenience with Val, who would want to destroy it for more selfless reasons.
And it would not be the first time that characters have gone off-piste regardless of the resolution.
So
Just saying.
does that mean leaning towards the complexity 4?
Seems like it.
Yeah.
I mean, you give yourself
Okay.
more chances of
Yeah.
plus, but I mean, it just depends on what you want to do. So,
Unless Daymond really wants to.
No, I'm good to burn it with fire. Metaphorically speaking.
Or literally.
Yeah, I mean, Kemuel already did some
So-
burning with fire, so.
just have to decide which question do you want to answer.
Amanda, perfect timing. Do you have a preference on which of the 3 questions to answer?
I
For
mean,
Emerald Orchid.
I always like going with the more complicated one. So we get stuff. But I don't have any theories. No. I've like the head cold from hell for the last week, so my brain's not working.
I can totally understand that. That's been me.
It's been rough.
Same. I think I've got something for the complexity 4, which is destroy, which is what Kemuel and Val would want.
Yeah.
It may also stroke Kemuel's ego just a little bit. But
Who's
given
been reproducing it? So, okay, so if this is the 4, who has been
Yes.
reproducing the orchid and how can it be stopped from spreading? You resolve the threat by seeking out and destroying the original malevolent orchid from which the others were grown. So, what do you think from the clues given?
I honestly think that the orchid is populating itself. It's getting other people to spread it through the gifts that Marybelle received, through its own spores, through people imbibing, through a voracious appetite for food and drinks being replaced with gardening materials. And the way we can potentially destroy this is by holding a feast where we bless the food. We cook out the spores and feed those infected with cleansed food, but I can be persuaded for other things.
There's a lot of people. I mean, like, we're talking not only the people over at the University of Sciences, but also people that have passed by and have also been gifted by Laurel Bentley, people that you had not seen over at the Lavender Terrace, people over at the at Q.
Well, ideally, if we get rid of the source of the problem goes away, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Supposedly.
So do we break into the garden that's got the original orchid?
Do we know where it is?
Yes. We've got the Herald of the Emerald Seed.
I was just going to say that one could work in, yeah.
Manifesto telling us everything we need to know about finding and worshipping our new, vibrant, glowing Messiah.
And it could also tell us what is the kind of central or originating organism that we need to destroy.
So from my count, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's at least 6 we've got in here, so that's +2. How you feeling about this, Mark?
Yeah, it sounding good to me. Thought forms is like a theosophical text. So about like, like the idea of like these visualizations creating like these sort of magical intentions with like colors and auras. I wonder if like that could be used for the ritual where we like uh sort
The
of
cooking ritual?
astrally cook this orchid,
Ooh, I like that.
or like
It's the counter effect maybe. Like you're gonna fight the mesmerizing effect of the of the um of the orchid, which is a concentrated emerald, the concentrated green, with the other colors.
Yeah, right. We use some color theory against it.
Yeah.
And
Does
Okay.
Kemuel have rose-tinted glasses? Quite literally.
almost certainly.
Okay. Yeah, so part of your plan has to be some sort of like cross counter color theory, something or other, to ritual to kind of break the spell of the orchid's verdant spell, basically. Yeah, I think it's a little bit, well, I mean, like, the stray animals with the seedlings, just to kind of like, show like how it's got the universal or the hive mind kind of idea going on, but I don't know how that kind of like falls into the malevolent entity thing. I don't know if you want to try to work that in somehow.
It might just be more evidence to the hive mind thing, where it's starting to reach across not just people but other creatures as well,
But other
showing that it's
creatures.
getting stronger.
Yeah.
Mark, do you want to roll this one since Kemuel is under the influence?
Sure.
So basically this is a +3 with 7 used, 7 explained.
Yeah. So pretty good roll. +3.
Right. Plus that is 5 plus 3 is 8.
Okay. So you are right. So the original orchid is found where? Like, where are you going to destroy it?
we're going to Kew Gardens to the Orchid House.
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
and figure out which one, based on the notes that are in this
Mm-hmm.
in this book, this occult manifesto, which
Okay.
one is the glowing one that will guide us into a vibrant resurrection, aka delicious food.
And you have to countermand it. Okay. All right. So try to figure out your plan for night phase, if that's what you're planning on doing. And then yeah, we can go into a dusk for this.
Do we want to mark the threat mask to bump it? Is that how that new rule works? Or is it
Yeah,
better
we
to just save
can.
that?
Mm-hmm.
Or we could save it for the night phase when we're actually trying
When
to.
we might actually need it, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Just make sure that you use it, otherwise you lose it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So everyone take a look at the Mask of the Emerald and assume that we're going to use it.
Mm-hmm.
Assume that somebody's you have to use it, yes. For sure. Okie doke. All right. So the plan is for night phase. But let's go through dusk. Any playbook moves that need to be resolved during dusk phase? I don't.
Are we remaining in place in terms of like where our characters are, or are we?
I feel like since we've had theories going around, I imagine we all made it back to Hargrave House at some point.
Yeah.
Unless you want to remain in place.
Yeah.
In which case,
In
doing
which
the thing.
Well, I
case,
was just
like
thinking
night
because
phase could be double the fun. It could be.
yeah, Mads was kind of setting up Val running into Mari and Isabel. But of course, there are two Vals.
Yeah, there are two Vals. So, I mean, the Val 2 could still be over there. And also, because it runs out like at the end of the phase, then Val 2 could just easily disappear and Val 1 could return to Hargrave. So, thus ended that problem. You know.
Well, I think Val 1 would disappear when they leave the house and say, "Excuse me, I'm just going back inside again." And Val 1 becomes Val 2 at that point. So yeah, then we got to figure out. I'm happy to be stuck in the house if if you have something cool in mind there.
Well, I mean, that just complicates your emotional life. I mean, if you want to be stuck in the house, I can totally stick you in the house for night phase. That's perfectly fine. But
Sure,
you just will not be included in anybody trying to resolve Emerald Orchid for the night phase. Let's get through dusk first. Let's get through dusk first because it's like I just want to complete all the dusk phase stuff and then I'll find out where people would like to be for night phase. Let's go through that. It's not the first time it's like I've kind of did a continuum weirdness with day to night. So, all right. Anybody have anything that goes wonky during dusk phase? Anything that completes or changes during dusk phase? I don't think so. And then rooms at Hargrave House. I think tonight we're going to do the dining room. The dining room. You don't take meals together often, but tonight is an exception. What's on the menu?
Marybelle has brought back to Hargrave House a very fragrant bunch of broccoli that she passed at a stall on her way, and I think they're very proud as they set it on a platter in the middle of the table. It's not cooked or anything. It's just broccoli, but yeah, contributing to the meal felt very important for them.
I think given this is a paint the scene, right? We're
Yes.
all contributing
Sorry.
something here. Given the vegetable theme of the night phase to come, there's got to be a ratatouille of some kind.
Daymond was too lost in his own thoughts and attempts at photosynthesis and conversations with the skull to have prepared anything. He brings a pot of cold tea that is half drunk, served on a tea towel that is covered in the same tea.
And I think in contrast to all these emeralds, Kemuel brings a ruby red wine of a very fine vintage. Apologies, Mr. Gray, if you would prefer tea. This might hit the spot as well.
I think your bottle of wine is probably going to do a lot better than this afternoon's cup of tea. Since this is one of the few nights we have together, shall we take a moment? And Daymond will extend both hands outward to everyone to hold hands and say grace.
Marybelle takes the hands but has no idea what's going on and is watching in interest.
Daymond will shake his other hand to whoever sits to the other side.
Yeah, I think if Val is not there, otherwise they would certainly partake in it.
I think Kemuel then will remark, I hope you both know there may be a price for this. And reach out and take both hands.
Awesome.
The price will be a delightful meal with friends and companions.
Let us hope that will suffice. We shall see.
Sorry, I did things a little backwards. It's like I wanted to drag out the question before anything else. Okay, now we ask, like, what is everybody going to be doing during night phase, or what do they want to be doing during night phase?
I want to go destroy this flower. I'm going flower hunting.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Kemuel would absolutely want to see the orchid destroyed.
Well, I think Val will be extricating themselves from an awkward encounter.
Daymond would like to have a vulnerable move given the number of conditions he's got, but will wander the streets of London as a beacon in the dark, attempting to gather more information for the spider silk seamstress.
So Val, you want to remain stuck in Society Obscura?
Yeah.
Okay. I think for Kemuel, I think the way we're going to explain it away is that they do manage to get a little better look at the goods, but I think that they were so impressed that they want to have you back. Like they said, it's like, oh, well, we're spending so much time, like, making sure that we have the proper lighting and then we have the proper costuming. It's like, we must have you back for the actual photo shoot itself. So we've run out of time, unfortunately, but we must have you back if that's okay. All right, so you will be free to do the orchid if you'd like, but Val will be back at the society. Okay. So Val did Darkened Threshold. Marybelle, I know you probably weren't even thinking about this, but from last time, it's like I see that you had a mask of the
Oh
past.
yeah. No, I haven't thought it.
That's perfectly
I'll do
fine.
it next time.
Yep. Let's look at the unseens. What shall we do for... All right, let's do Billingsgate Fish Market for next time. The fish market at Billingsgate, within the bounds of the city of London itself, is the largest in the world. Even in the dead of night is a hive of activity, as the porters, traders, and fishwives prepare for the return of the trawlermen before the sun rises over the Thames. Stalls are scrubbed, ready for the day's catch, and lamps lit on the wharves. Number 1, prompt 1. Let's go ahead and make that Jeremy. Prompt 2 will be Mark. Prompt 3 will be Amanda. And paint the scene. Looks like it's everybody. Alright, so that's what we got for next time. And that should cover it for next time, okay? So we'll start with Amanda, if you'll have your mask ready for next time, you can start with that. And then we'll go right into the night phase and unseen and all that. Okay? So let's go ahead and do some stars and wishes to wrap up for tonight's session. Sorry for the extended / like makeshift portion of it. It's like I was trying to get myself like back on track, but missed a week, and it was almost like, okay, how do we do this again? So sorry about that. But it was fun. I appreciated it, and thank you for your patience. Yeah, stars for again, like just everybody going along with the chicanery of um, like having three threats on the board, of course, and yeah, I think it was very clever to try and find out who the skull was, and try to weave that in there. Kemuel and trying to get some stuff out of the Abernathies, and following your shadows, the shadow call, and Val, um, you know, trying to investigate in the primordial room, which is something new and different in the Society Obscura. But yeah, I mean, it's a weird place, and I really enjoy being in that uh, in that in that threat for sure. Um, so going to try to think of how to have fun for the night phase for you, for sure. And then for Marybelle, yeah, I mean Emerald Orchid is new for me too, new for me, and I think the way like you transitioned from doing the Emerald Orchid and then jumping into like, let me stop off at the Blue Feather Society and then like look up some stuff for Spider Silk Seamstress. That was really good. I appreciate the jumping into like, oh, let's just give it a shot. Let's like see what we can find out. I enjoyed that a lot. So thank you all for you know running along with it, and wishes um, get back into the swing of things like for next time, and hopefully I'll have more behind the scenes kind of things going on, because it's like I need to bring um, some mastermind stuff back into play, especially because I think the next time that we get into a day phase, that'll be time for Amanda. Like if you have 7 dials ready, it's like I'm going to be bringing that in as the next threat. So
I will get it done.
I mean, worst comes to worst, it's like I
It's
have the
it's
version that I
yeah,
have. I mean,
it's
it's fine.
very close to being done. I just gotta polish up some bit to make it scarier.
Okay, that is fine, and that is me.
Yeah, I don't know. It's tricky. It felt like a getting back into the swing of things session, but there's definitely some, which I'm really glad for. I've had a bunch of games that haven't run recently, so this is my first game in a few weeks. Yeah, there's some really intriguing hints dropped. I really liked Kemuel deciding that actually he wants to destroy the orchid. That is not what I expected, but the reasoning for it makes absolute sense. I thought he was going to try and use its power or subsume its power in some way. I liked Damon's scenes with, in the park at the beginning, and then I caught the end of another one. Just more kind of revealing stuff about his character, and yeah, he's someone that I think my opinion of is shifting just based on a lot of those little hints that we're getting dropped. It's good to have Marybelle back. It was fun to do a mask, like right in the moment, and I'm definitely like big wishes. Like I really want to see where this is going with the awkward meeting that may or may not be about to happen to Val. Yeah, I am very intrigued to figure out what's going on there and see, yeah, and just lean into the drama of it.
It has been said, it was very good to play with you all. It's good to be back. Missed you all in this game. Start a Mads, because from the words that you said out of game, it seems like the session was rushed for you. And yet in the moment, each beat felt incredibly well prepared for. And I don't know if it was the subconscious thoughts rattling around your head, or if you're just that in tune with the between, but this did not feel like a session that was come up with after a long break where there was too much to do. It felt thoughtful and evocative, and that was lovely. Start a mark for suggesting a lower complexity when we had enough clues to smash one of the higher ones. I'm excited to see how that plays out. Just because so often the lower complexity ones only get done out of desperation and less so an active choice. A preemptive star for Amanda, because I know Seven Murmurs is going to be fantastic. And the fact that you said at the very end, I need to make it more frightening, has me concerned in the best possible way. And Marybelle was fantastic. But that one line at the end is like, oh God, what's next? And Rob, that mask, picking me for the personal quarters item, like that was just a twist at the knife. Burning of witches was so... The fact that you survived the hellfire alone, wild, fantastic. And as far as a wish, I need a moment with treasure. And I have to figure out how to work this out. And I don't have a lot of time left for it.
Yeah, the star for that. That's a great idea. And more generally, Jeremy, star for the whole conversation with the skull was amazing. Putting the silver bell in the skull's jaw so that it could answer later on, and I guess star to both you and Mads for that great conversation between Daymond and Hattie. That was really cool to see. There were lots of sort of very insightful and trenchant questions being thrown back and forth between the two of you. So very cool to see that dynamic. Amanda, I really like the idea of Marybelle being sort of casually fascinated by her own interior workings and mechanisms. Until you brought that up, it hadn't occurred to me what their perspective might be on sort of the mysteries of their existence. So that was a cool little flavor to introduce there. Yeah, Rob, big star for the Darkened Threshold. That was just like, so that really hit hard. And I think my wish as well is to see how these things shake out with Isabel Russell being in the grasp of the mastermind.
Yeah, because I accidentally took a too long nap. I missed some of this session, unfortunately. But it was hilarious to come in just at the moment I did with Daymond Gray and Hattie having that conversation and finding out that Gray is going on a date with a skull. I'm like, yeah, that checks out. So that whole conversation was delightful to walk into. The using her as a little bit of a spy, being a little sneaky about it. I love that. I can see some of the seams in our little Hargrave house family getting pushed at a bit, which I like. The conversation, Mads, with what's her name? Abigail. in the society was really fun. I wasn't really sure what I was going to go for. I was just kind of winging it there. But I think it ended up being really perfect for my next like set of ideas for what I want Marybelle to be looking into and how she views her colleagues. So that was just so much fun to bounce off of improv style. So thanks for that. That was great. Rob, that I have to also give you a big star for that mask because it was so good. It was terrifying, and I'm really a wish is I'm waiting for the moment when Val like loses it, you know, when Val's calm composure splits and breaks a bit. So I'm waiting for that because you know it's gonna happen. Nobody can be that cool all the time. um And I didn't get to see a ton of Kemuel today because I missed a bunch of things, but I'm really looking forward to seeing how much more of this Daymond digging into Kemuel's past stuff is gonna. I'm excited to see what this is gonna come out like. If it's gonna be antagonistic or I don't know. I don't know. Is this enemies to friends to enemies to best friends to enemies again? I don't know. I'm excited to see what's going to happen. So yay, I can't wait for the next session. And hopefully I won't be sick.
I mean, we covered everything. Yeah, hopefully we will all be well, reasonably well by the next session, and you know, I'll be back from PAX U at that point, and yeah, um, hopefully won't be too exhausted at that point either, and you know, everything will be I'll get back on track for what we're going to be doing. Yeah, I mean, I can't think of anything else. Although I will say, um, just wanted to make a note. I do, even with the new threat coming up, I mean, hopefully I can try to make this night phase very punchy because I do want to get that next day phase in. So, like, if possible, Amanda, it's like, you know, if you are not able to get um
Now I
some.
thrive on a deadline. I got this.
Okay, yeah, I mean, because I do want to bring it in like on Monday. So like if you can get 7 dials in by Monday, that would be great. If not, I mean, I'll just start it with what I
Yeah,
originally
it's not
have.
changing too much. I'm fixing up the big sink and cleaning up some of the connections between the locations and the characters and the bits like that. So,
Okay,
but the basic story is the same.
okay, yeah. I mean, like if yeah, because the intro will kind of like, you know, kind of work exactly like a little bit more story wise, like I did with Waitley, like the introduction. I won't just do a straight narration. I try not to do a straight narration if I can help it. So yeah, I mean, if there's anything really different from how you have the original, then like just let me know. So this way, it's like I can kind of work it into a narrative for next time for when we do the next day phase. But aside from that, I mean, like, you know, that like you guys will know what's for next time. You will resolve, hopefully, you know, the orchid, and other people will do what they're going to do for night phase, and then we'll go into day phase and have a new threat. Yay. Um, oh man. And then just that just means like closer to the holidays. Yippee! All right, great. Sorry.
I'll
I'm a
never
little bit loopy.
understand why in the States you have Thanksgiving in November. You should just do it in October like normal people. Because then you have like a nice long break before you have to get into Christmas stuff.
I don't know. I think we just like the downward slope so close together. It's like, wee, look, Thanksgiving right into Christmas. Yeah.
Amanda, it's to give Halloween enough breathing room to really get celebrated.
Ugh, doesn't even
And
seem
hold
like
off
we
the
get that.
Christmas music as long as possible.
Ugh,
I mean, I'm celebrating Halloween right now on December 2nd. So
there you go. There you go. Oh, it's Halloween all the time. It's all fine. All right. So, you guys have a good week. Happy gaming. Hopefully, we're all freaking well by the time we come back for next session. God damn it. All right. So wishing like happy health to everybody, including happy gaming. So I'll see you guys next time. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm like my brain's off too. Sorry. It's like still getting over a cold.
You're doing
Um,
great.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Take care, guys. I will see you next week. All right.
See you
Bye.
then.
See ya.
Bye.